So I want to talk about Aristotle's first book of ethics. I think there's 10 of them. I can't even say the full name right, so I apologize for that. They're all in like ancient Greece, and they're pretty complicated names and stuff like that. The full name of the book. So I apologize again for that. Uh, so anyways, Aristotle's fourth book of ethics is a very interesting as it talks about a lot of different things, and one of the main theme of the fourth book is happiness. And are you truly happy, and how you might have a false sense of happiness? And Aristotle believed that essentially happiness was a result of a blessed life, and that wealth didn't necessarily bring that happiness to you, but it was about your social standings and other stuff like that, about where you were in society and whether you had friends or not, and all that kind of stuff. And this might have come from the fact that it might be a cultural difference, as we don't view that that happiness comes from that in today's society. I mean, was the entire book of ethics is based on what is ethics and how things can be ethical. And so I think it comes from how things were in ancient Greece, necessarily in his day, because he talks about good deeds too. One of the main thing is, how do we know something is ethical? And just because you do a good deed, does that necessarily mean that you actually did good, or did you just get a kick off of doing something good? And how those two things are different. And it kind of plays back into what is happiness, and are you truly happy with your life, and how you could have a false sense of happiness. And Aristotle believed kind of came from multiple things. It came from whether or not you're going to be oppressive to somebody, and whether or not you had friends, your social standings, and whether you were good at something. So the whole point was, how do you know you're happy? And Aristotle kind of describes it as this: does a knife have a purpose? What makes a good knife? And what makes a good knife is whether it's sharp or not, whether it can cut or not, right? And so Aristotle kind of said, well, if we say that these things are good, then humans also have to be, if these things have a purpose, and those purposes make what makes it good, then humans also have to essentially have a purpose in life. It's kind of like your eyes. Your eyes allows you to see. That's their purpose. Therefore, humans also have to have a purpose, and whatever that purpose is, I don't know, but he talks about that, and he talks about the purpose, in that you can only live a truly happy life if you can figure out what your purpose is. Therefore, you did good in your essential life from figuring out your purpose. And my reaction to that is, I don't think that necessarily dictates ethics. Right? He says that if a marathoner basically won the marathon simply because he came in first, and not because he was the most fit or the most beautiful, then that's ethic. I think that's more of a value of ethics, or an example of ethics, rather than actual ethics. I think that you know, I think that I don't think that's necessarily what ethics is. I think ethics is more. I think there's multiple things that come with ethics, right? And one of the things he talks about is that just because you do a good deed doesn't mean that deed was necessarily ethical. Kind of like walking an old lady down the street. What happens, if you see an old lady struggle and you help her walk down the street, right? That's a good deed. Everyone will agree that's a good deed, but does that make it ethical? What if you just got a kick off of walking her down the street? There's also another idea about it. What if you had a bad thought? What if you were walking over there and you were planning to rob your lady, but you changed your mind and helped her walk down the street anyways? Then is that still an ethical deed? I mean, yes, you didn't do the bad thing you were going to do, but you still thought about it and you still wanted to. And then there's the last example where you actually do it because you feel that you have to do it because it's your belief or it's your purpose to do that. And they're all very different things, right? And based on the example, it does provide a different point of view on each one. And I guess that my thing, like I said, I think it comes from both thought about it comes from the thought, the actions, and how you translate those actions in real life is how you really predict what is ethical. And so, like I said, Aristotle believed that essentially, in order to be happy and to live ethically, you have to have a blessed life, and you had to essentially have a group of people around you. You have to have a certain social standings, and you have to essentially have both thoughts and actions in the right place. And from this, you should have a blessed life. And essentially, that is what will create ultimate happiness: is find your purpose. Once you find that purpose, essentially find your social standing. And once you find your social standing, simply live in that social standings in a way that would actually be good for everyone around you. And essentially, that is what Aristotle, I believe, thought was ethical, at least in this fourth book, which he describes, which he describes in this fourth book, anyways. And the fourth book of ethics is interesting because it does talk about human purpose and whether or not, in order to have a purpose, there has to be a maker in some way or capacity. Now, Aristotle was from ancient Greece, and he believed in different gods, so or he would have believed in different gods. I didn't actually know the person, so I don't know what he actually believed or not. But most ancient Greeks believed in like the gods and stuff like that. So they were all pagan. So I'm not really sure how to put this, but I guess that Aristotle believed that there was some type of maker or some type of person who had to create human beings for a purpose, and because that's the only thing, right? A knife doesn't just get created by itself because it's sharp. A knife gets created because it's needed for a purpose. Same thing with humans. I think all humans have a purpose, and I'm not sure what that purpose necessarily might be, but it might be different things. And this is the whole idea of if you have a purpose, you need to find that purpose, right? This is what Steven Crowder talks about all the time, is that we're all good at something, and we might not be the best at it, but we're all good at something, and we got to find that something because that's what would create true happiness. And I'm still struggling to find what my thing is, but maybe one day I'll find it. Maybe one day I'll find what my true purpose is in life, and I'll be able to embrace it in some way. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I'll let you know. I'll probably do another review on Aristotle's second book when I get done with it. So, thank you.